Just to remind you of that breaking news that we've heard in the last few moments, police are at the scene of a reported stabbing at a synagogue in Crumpsall, Greater Manchester. Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham has said it's a serious incident.
And we'll keep you updated as this develops, because there are casualties that we're aware of. Very serious, very significant, and of course we're all going to be in Manchester for the Tory Party conference in a couple of days' time. Johnson is saying
that it's the holiest day of the Jewish calendar today. It's Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement.
Yeah.
So a lot of people who normally wouldn't go to synagogue in the entire year will go today for that. And even a lot of very secular Jews will fast. They won't have any food or drink for 25 hours. So this is, if you're, for an attack, this is a particularly awful day to launch. As any day would be, but today would be a particularly awful day.
In the synagogue.
Exactly.
Of course, huge concerns over the last 2 years. We're 5 years out from the 2-year anniversary of those appalling Hamas attacks in Israel, and we've seen a big rise of anti-Semitism in.
Yeah, and we have marches in London every Saturday pro Gaza, where every Saturday when I've seen them, I've heard terrible anti-Semitic.
Well, the point is that I think we do absolutely have to separate those two issues. I am a very, very secular Jewish person, but I go and do security duty, and obviously you know very well what my views on the Israel-Gaza conflict are, but I go and do security duty twice a year at my synagogue because it's the right thing to do, and everyone deserves safety, no matter what they believe.
Just some more breaking news here. The Mayor has said there's some assurance the immediate danger at the synagogue appears to be over. The incident was dealt with swiftly and effectively by the police. So as soon as we know more about that, GB News reporter Charlie Peters joins us now. Charlie, can you give us any more information?
I don't think he's quite ready yet. But Sarah, this will be of enormous concern. Good morning to British Jews.
I think that the escalation in anti-Semitism over the last 2 or 3 years has been really startling, hasn't it? And I've got quite a lot of Jewish friends, and they all say the same thing. They feel very nervous about their status. They worry that people just conflate Israel with their religion, and it's just everything has become so polarised and so simplified, and it's not a simple situation. It's very nuanced, and it's just so.
Okay, so we can go to our GB News national reporter Charlie Peters. Charlie, what more can you tell us?
Well, good morning. We're now being told by the Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, that the immediate danger is over. But we're also hearing from the ambulance service that they have now declared a major incident. Hearing from the North West Ambulance Service that after the reports of an incident on the Middleton Road, that the Trust has dispatched resources to the scene. They're also saying they're currently assessing the situation and working with other members of the emergency services. Their priority, they say, is to ensure people receive the medical help they need as quickly as possible. And the Manchester Mayor, Andy Burnham, speaking on the radio in the city, saying that this was now a serious incident. We're waiting for more information on what's been happening here, but the police have confirmed that multiple people have been stabbed, and the police are at the scene. Greater Manchester Police at the scene of a reported mass stabbing, multiple people being stabbed at a synagogue in Crumpsall in Manchester. As it stands, we're aware that several people have been stabbed, but that the immediate danger is over. Armed officers have also been observed on the scene at the Heaton Park Synagogue. Paramedics also there, with the North West Ambulance Service saying that they had deployed several resources to the scene. So a serious incident with several people stabbed. And of course, today is Yom Kippur, a Jewish holiday. Many Jews around the country will be fasting today after starting services in synagogues last night. They will be preparing to break the fast tonight. It is one of the holiest days in the Jewish calendar. We know, of course, that the October the 7th attacks 2 years ago in Israel occurred also on Yom Kippur. At this stage, though, there is no information about the motivation behind these multiple serious stabbings, but it does appear to be a targeted attack at a synagogue in Manchester. We don't know about anyone being in police custody in this time. All the information we've got so far is from the Mayor of Manchester, Andy Burnham, and the North West Ambulance Service. Multiple resources dispatched to the scene, armed officers from Greater Manchester Police as well. And Miriam and Andrew, when I get more information, I'll bring it to you as soon as I can.
All right, we've got the panel with us still. Jonathan Liss.
Just on that point, obviously everything Charlie says is true, but it's not. The 7th of October attacks did not coincide with Yom Kippur. Yom Kippur was a couple of weeks earlier in 2023. That's the only point.
But I think the fact it is Yom Kippur today.
Yom Kippur is the holiest day of the Jewish calendar. It's uniquely awful that anything should happen. Obviously, I hope that everything.
It would be like if it was in a Christian church.
It would be like attacking someone on Easter
Friday.
Sunday, exactly.
That's what it's about.
Well, I mean, I think the main thing is that people, when things like this happen, everybody becomes hysterical immediately. We need to wait and see what's actually happened.
Yeah.
And that's these things should always be dialed down until we know what, because it's because of people overreacting all the time, especially on social media.
I was just about to say social media.
It only takes one lunatic to, go off the rails and do something like this, and lots of people get hurt.
But we have seen an enormous increase in anti-Semitic attacks and incidents since October the 7th. And I'm sure, the polarisation that comes through social media is a big part of that.
Well, I mean, there was that doctor the other day who was not struck off because the medical council thought she was OK, and she's been saying things like on X, terrible anti-Semitic stuff, which apparently is sort of OK. I mean, there's a sense that this stuff is not being policed properly, I think. I think people feel that, particularly Jews.
But there are obviously enough people who believe that certain races and religions, particularly Jews, are the enemy and inhuman enough to be attacked in this way.
The reports of anti-Semitic incidents in the UK a record high in the first 6 months of the year.
Yeah, I mean, I had a lunch the other day with some friends, and one of them brought their daughter along, and she's sort of 22 or 23, and she spent the entire lunch trying to persuade me that October the 7th had been sort of made up, and it was all just a sort of kind of conspiracy theory, and that it didn't really happen. And people do genuinely.
She was literally.
I've
never heard that before. I've never heard anyone argue that October the 7th didn't happen. I've heard
no. That it was sort of organised by Israel. That it wasn't really a genuine attack. Sorry, I didn't mean that. That it wasn't it wasn't. It was all staged, and it was all. And I was just like.
Look, there are. I don't think now is necessarily the time to go into October the 7th per se. But obviously there are questions to ask about Israeli intelligence, and these questions are being asked in Israel itself about why intelligence, because there were intelligence reports being passed from the Gaza border, etc., to the government, and why it took so long for the emergency service to arrive and everything. So there are questions, but that is completely separate. And I really insist, actually, that we keep Israel separate from Jews, and British Jews in particular, because we are not the same.
We've just got to go back to, we've got a bit more news here. Just to remind you, in the last week, police sources have told GB News they believe multiple people were stabbed at that synagogue in Crumpsall, Greater Manchester. The ambulance services said, a statement from the ambulance service said, following reports of that incident, the trust has dispatched resources to the scene. We are currently assessing the situation, working with other members of the emergency services.